What's up guys, Red Wolf here. So, this is gonna be the final Q&A. And there's only 5 more people to go. So, let's get started. Okay, so this next question comes from Riot Kitty. And she asks, who's your favorite Disney villain? Oh, that's a good one. For me, it has to be Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, this guy really scared the pants off of me when watching the movie, and what makes him so monstrous is that he's realistic. There's no over the top nature, there's no indulgence in one's own villainy, there's only one grand scheme of the world's conquest, and he's the bigot, the corrupted churchman, and the villain who does not fit. Few cartoon villains are as tangible and realistic as this man, and it makes it all the more terrifying, and that's why he's my favorite. But good question. Next question comes from Flameboy92. What are your thoughts on those tribal button-down shirts we used to have back in the late 90s and early 2000s? Aw man, dude, those things were like the coolest fashion trend back in the day. And it's actually kind of funny because a YouTuber who I follow named Corey Margera actually reminded me of those shirts. But yeah, I used to have a few of those shirts way back in elementary and middle school. And they were pretty cool with those really cool dragon designs. And I'm a huge sucker for shirts like those. But it sucks that they no longer make them anymore. Number 2, what's your favorite Twisted Metal game? My favorite Twisted Metal game has to be Twisted Metal Black for the PS2. And his third question, do you think Ghost Rider deserves a movie reboot that's actually rated R? Yeah, but it's not gonna happen at least the way we want it. Because Disney pretty much owns Ghost Rider, and they'd probably make his movie fit more into the MCU formula, where all the characters crack nothing but unfunny jokes. But I think a Ghost Rider TV series in the same tone as Daredevil would be pretty awesome. I know he was brought into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a show I barely watched, but it would be pretty nice if that version of Ghost Rider had his own TV series. But if Ghost Rider's movie were to be rebooted, I just hope that it's good and not another Nicolas Cage movie. And I can tell you're a Ghost Rider fan judging by your profile picture. And I love the character also. He's a pretty badass character, kinda like Spawn. And if Ghost Rider does get his own movie, let's just hope it's done right this time. Next question comes from Collins Vincent. What are your thoughts on the future of Marvel animation? Are there any Marvel characters or superhero teams that should be headlining their own animated series? Well, to be honest, I haven't really been paying attention to Marvel's animated shows. Because honestly, since when was the last time Marvel had a good animated show? Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes? Here's my problem with their animated shows. They're pretty much geared towards kids. And yeah, cartoons in general are mostly geared towards kids. But it doesn't mean that you should dumb them down. It may be better than what we're getting from Cartoon Network with all of these Teen Titans Go reboots, but that's really not saying much. They still suck because they are mass-produced and heavily focused on what an 8-year-old would like. Like, everything Marvel Studios puts out has the weird mass-produced sameness to it, and that carries over into its animation as well. Only you are more sensitive to it because it doesn't appeal to you like the movies do. And it's definitely the same on both fronts. Boys buy the toys. There's a great episode of The Fat Man on Batman with Paul Dini that tackles this subject. The shows aren't built for you because you're not the one going to Target to buy the backpacks. the binders, and the action figures. But then again, there are a lot of adults that collect action figures. But anyways, the whole point is they needed 23 minutes to grab the kids, and it's harder to pull off something more deep and meaningful. Who cares if it's smart enough for parents, or if it'll have way 20 years later? Are kids buying the toys now? Great, who cares? And that's honestly the logic. And it sucks, but there you go. The problem is that it seems to be working better for them. Ultimate Spider-Man outlasted Green Lantern the animated series and Spectacular Spider-Man. And those two shows saw nothing but praise. Now I've heard that Marvel is looking to revamp their animation department. I can only hope that we get something in the caliber of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. But I'd rather they continue the shows that were cancelled like Wolverine and the X-Men, or Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And you also ask what Marvel superhero deserves their own animated show? To me, it really doesn't matter, just as long as we get a good show. Number 2. Do you see any future for Tron Uprising animated series on a streaming service? And do you think the show will be revived by Hulu or Disney+? Well, seeing that the show is no longer on Hulu, I could most likely seeing it being moved to the Disney app. Will they revive it? Who knows? Maybe if there's enough fan demand, they'll probably bring it back. And number 3. With Netflix being involved with some of the most successful cartoon reboots, do you see them making a rebooted Captain Planet animated series anytime soon? Yeah, I could definitely see a Captain Planet reboot. Anytime soon is stretching it a bit too far, because I haven't heard anything about a reboot happening, but I can definitely see a reboot happening somewhere in the future. Next question comes from Danniel Raphael de Jesus. And he asks, what are your thoughts on heavy metal? Well, to me, heavy metal is a badass music genre that deserves a lot more appreciation in the mainstream. His second question, do you listen to Judas Priest? Yeah, I've listened to a few of their songs like Painkiller and You Got Another Thing Coming. They're an awesome band, but I don't listen to them too much. And number 3, do you miss rock music and heavy metal music in wrestling pay-per-views? Yeah, but I don't watch wrestling anymore because of how bad the product has gotten. But it would be cool if they played more rock and metal soundtracks like they did in the early 2000s. Some of my favorite wrestling pay-per-view themes of all time are Always by Saliva, which was the theme for the Survivor Series 2002 theme. Then there was My Way from Limp Bizkit for the WrestleMania 17 theme. And even their other song called Build a Bridge for Survivor Series 2003. Then there was Superstar from Drowning Pool for WrestleMania 18. Then there was Price to Pay from Stained for the Vengeance 2003 theme. Then there was a Remedy made by a band called Cold for the Backlash 2003 theme. Then there was a Puddle of Mud for the Survivor Series 2001 theme. Then there was Lose from Primer 65, which was the theme song for WCW Mayhem 1999. And even their weekly shows had a lot of cool rock and metal themes, like Thorn in Your Eye for the Raw is War theme. Then there was Across the Nation from Union Underground. Then there was Rise Up from Drowning Pool, which was the SmackDown theme for 2005. But yeah, I'd love for there to be more rock and metal soundtracks for WWE themes. Now look, I really don't care for NXT, but I was watching this NXT show with a friend of mine who still watches WWE. And I'll give NXT credit, they actually play a lot of good rock and metal soundtracks. from one of the NXT takeovers, I found out about this one band called Of Mice and Men, and their song was called Relentless. And I often say to myself, why can't they play songs like this on the main roster instead of this Flow Rida crap? Oh wait, it's a whole new generation of mainstream fans with bad taste in music. But I will say, from what I've heard from NXT, they have some good rock and metal soundtracks. And it's all because of Triple H, who has really good taste in music. Rock and heavy metal fits with wrestling like bread and butter, and it just makes professional wrestling more badass and way cooler. And last but not least, a good friend of mine, Asylum 117. Do you like survival horror games? And if you do you think it's annoying that many horror games nowadays are just run and hide type of games? Yeah, I do play a lot of horror games. During my early stages of YouTube, I've reviewed some of the Resident Evil and Silent Hill games. And are more horror games these days just run and hide? Yes, they are. And here's the thing. Look, I don't like the idea of being powerless in a horror game. It just makes it feel cheap. Like, I just wanna have enough power that you feel you can come through, but not so much that you lose the meaning of fear. And honestly, I just find them boring. Here's a second question. If Gendy Tartakovsky and Greg Weisman worked together to make an epic action cartoon, would you watch it? No shit. Why wouldn't I want to watch it? You know that I love the action cartoon genre. And for a show like that to be made by two geniuses in the world of animation who have never made a bad cartoon is automatically a must-watch for me. But it can also be a problem because when you have two geniuses working on a project, it might not go too well because of the fact that those two might not be on the same page, because they might have different ideas. Now, I'm not sure what Greg Weisman and Gendy Tartakovsky's opinions on each other are, and what it would be like if those two were to work together. But if those two were to make a really cool badass action cartoon that's better than anything we are getting on TV nowadays, and they can work well with each other, then there shouldn't be a problem. And the final question of my Q&A. Do you think that X-Men movies would be ruined if they were made by MCU? Yeah, I think so. I can only imagine that they're gonna have the X-Men crack a bunch of jokes with the Avengers, and also throw in the SJW nonsense in there, like Iceman being gay like they made him in the comics. And also Wolverine's action scenes are not gonna be as brutal, bloody, and violent like they made him in Logan. And Deadpool will be super toned down from his 2 movies. So yeah, all the MCU fanboys who hate the X-Men movies are gonna get what they want. But I'm not gonna care. And that's basically it for my Q&A. I hope I answered all your questions in the best way possible, and I hope some of you are satisfied with the answers I gave you. This was a pretty long Q&A, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Now, I'm not sure if I'll do this again, but I guess it all depends on whether or not I feel like it. But anyways, this is Red Wolf signing out, and I'll see you next time. Peace.